However, the redhead says she never agreed with that and it was something the other said. The blonde points out that they ate some of the shared food yesterday. The trouble here guy says he doesn't even remember that. The girl then warns that it's okay. She will report the two of them to everyone. The guy immediately stands up and asks why she doesn't try to do that. However, she will soon find out what will happen. The girl says it doesn't matter because she can run very fast. The guy laughs and approaches when something they scream echoes. Everyone trembles and he asks his friend if it wasn't a creature. She turns around and says yes, but it came from far away so they are fine. With that, he feels relieved and says it seems he was scared for nothing. However, looking to the side, he sees the girl covering her ears and trembling. He laughs, asking where her confidence went. How was she going to run if she was trembling so much? Then the girl notices something, there's a piece of bread in a corner. A while later, that guy from before says hi to her and asks if she looked around there. She says yes and he asks if she found anything. With the bread in her pocket, she says she unfortunately didn't find anything. The guy says that's okay, but it's no surprise. Because for now, the most important thing is to stay alive since you can always look for food. Suddenly, the monster breaks through the wall behind them. The girl is thrown and as she starts to get up, she sees the creature right behind the guy. He raises his hands, pleading for help, but she runs off apologizing. He screams, asking why and she says she never claimed to be a good person. With that, the previous couple also flees and the guy tells her not to look back. Looking ahead, he sees the girl in a creature. The redhead says that when the girl gets eaten, they should take advantage of it to get past. While thinking she was an idiot for going against the beast, the monster raises its arm and attacks her. At that moment, the girl realizes something and jumps dodging the attacks. They slip all dodging and manage to reach the other side. They can only watch her get further away while the monster comes from behind. They scream and a while later, the girl falls to the ground, wondering if she's finally safe. That's when she notices something beside her. The protagonist is there standing and sleeping. She slaps him and he falls to the ground, continuing to snore. At that moment, she notices that he is alive, but on the other side of the pillar, a creature is approaching. She wonders if the beast heard them as the creature slowly passes by. She realizes the protagonist is exposed and pulls him by his shirt. The monster passes while he is still asleep. Once the monster is gone, she relaxes, finally having survived. Then she notices he is looking at her. She jumps back and he leaps to the other side, asking who she is and what she was trying to do. The girl is a bit confused and the protagonist remembers that his father told him never to trust anyone. The only way to survive was by keeping others at a distance. The girl explains that she only hit him so the monster wouldn't see him. However, he keeps remembering his father saying not to trust anyone or he will be used and killed. Now he knows that if his father was right, he won't survive by getting close to people. He then asks how he could believe her. At that moment, his stomach growls and he collapses from hunger. The last time he ate was 5 days ago in the basement. He is already at his limit and even with long breaks, he now has no energy left. The girl says she doesn't have anything to eat. He is confused and asks what she is talking about since he didn't even ask. She says he just looked hungry so she assumed. However, when she goes to apologize, the bread falls out of her pocket. As soon as he sees it, he asks what it is. She is unsure how to respond and the protagonist has no idea what that item is. Strangely, his hunger seems to intensify when he looks at it. He asks if it's food and she says no. He then remarks that he must have been wrong and she retorts that it's ridiculous to think it's food. The girl thinks she has found the biggest idiot of all who can't even recognize food. Unfortunately for her, the protagonist doesn't trust humans. She is puzzled and he says he will never be fooled by a human's lies. She realizes she's dealing with an even bigger fool than she thought. The protagonist is sure from her reaction that it's food and that he needs it. If she doesn't want to cooperate, you will have to use force. However, she offers him a piece saying she won't give more than half. The protagonist is confused, wondering why she's sharing that reduces her chances of survival. She says he will have to repay her 4 times over. The boy realizes that these were her motives. Humans are indeed treacherous creatures. He stands up and she asks where he is going. He says now that he's eaten, he's moving on human. She runs after him, asking where he thinks he's going in such a world, and says she knows the place well because she grew up there. The protagonist turns and asks if she really knows the place. She says yes, so he asks if she knows where the subway is. Later, hiding in the city, she wonders why she's following this idiot. If she had known he was like this, she wouldn't have shared the bread with him. However, she remembers asking why he wanted to go to the subway. He said it was safe there and she questioned why. He said it had a concentration of resources they would need to survive, and most importantly, it was hard for the monsters to detect humans underground. The girl thinks he's strange but talks as if he knows something, not to mention that this crazy person didn't even know what bread was. Then she realizes they've arrived but says she was sure it was around here. The protagonist tells her to stop lying as he knows subways are underground. She then says this isn't the subway but the entrance to the place. At that moment, an old man approaches and tells her to be quiet. He says he came because he heard something but didn't expect to find people. The protagonist asks who the man is. The man responds that his words are a bit rude and leaves introductions for later, telling them to follow him. The blonde asks where and he asks if it isn't what they are looking for. After walking through some rubble, he says they've arrived. The protagonist sees the subway and it's busy. The blonde says there are many people there and she didn't expect everyone to have the same idea. The man comments that he can't forget that moment. When the creatures were everywhere, he started running and happened to find this place by luck. He says he walked on the surface a few times in search of medicine, but the 2 of them are the first people he's encountered. The protagonist observes everyone. His plan list is to establish a base there, but there are far more people than he expected. He can see all kinds of people there. Those who were lost and trapped in despair, those who show their cruel side, and the strangest of all, one who stands still without any apparent intention. He knows that the more humans there are, the more risk factors exist. However, none of the people he observed in the subway seem to pose a danger. He can instinctively recognize who is dangerous, just like the monsters on the surface and his father. But none of the people here give him any sense of danger. Maybe he should stay there for a while since no one can hurt him. The bully clears his throat and introduces himself. His name is Quambium and he is a doctor. He was looking for medication and that's how he found them. He waits for them to introduce themselves but the protagonist says nothing. The girl then says she will introduce herself and says her name is Haru. The man says that from her uniform she seems to be from the elementary school called Virtual. She says yes and asks if he knew it. The old man says he did because the hospital was near the mall next to it. Haru seems confused about not remembering a hospital there. He asks the same of the protagonist but noticing his clothes says he spoke something stupid and asks for his name. The protagonist stops to think and says he has no name. The old man is confused and the protagonist says he was never given a name. The old man becomes pensive and says that when he feels more comfortable he can share it. At that moment a redhead comes in calling for him, saying things are getting worse. They approach a guy with some bandages on the floor. Trembling he calls for the doctor, who looks at the wound and says it's worse than he imagined. He stopped the bleeding last time but it wasn't enough. He tells the guy that if he doesn't undergo surgery he has a high chance of dying from an infection. He opens his coat full of items and says they will have to disinfect it. The protagonist watches. He remembers reading once about doctors and something his father doesn't even know he knows. The job of treating humans for a price. However, money is useless in this apocalypse. So he asks the old man what he will receive for this treatment. Everyone looks back and the man seems a bit confused. The doctor then asks why he would have to receive anything. He is a doctor and his job is to take care of those who are injured. He tells the guy not to worry as he rarely fails a surgery. The man hugs him grateful for the help. The protagonist can't understand why the guy is helping without expecting anything in return. He wonders if the doctor is stupid or if this behavior is normal for humans.